Distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today our topic in Rihal Talks is becoming an expert. Before I start with the session, I just want to give a bit of an introduction about what is Rihal Talks. Rihal Talks is a session that is made by our marketing and operations team just to give knowledge to the public. It's an open session. We have internal people doing the sessions. We have external people coming on board doing the sessions. And honestly, they were amazing sessions that we have witnessed and participated in. And I'm having a hard time just basically trying to get in par with how good these sessions were. But I'll try my best, and we'll see how things will go, inshallah, as we progress through this session that I have. Today's title of this session is Becoming an Expert. What is an expert? How to become an expert, and what makes experts different from the rest. These are the topics that we'll speak about, inshallah. Before I go into the expert part, I need to explain one thing about how the human brain operates. There are two types of systems that are in the human brain, System 1 and System 2. System 1 is the conscious system. It is the system that takes a lot of energy to operate. It's the system that you use to do exams, solve very complicated problems. And then we have System 2, which is the subconscious system. What the subconscious system does, it does things automatically, effortlessly. Think about breathing. Mohammed just gave me a comment about breathing. Think about driving a car, think about walking. You don't need to think to do this type of activities in the subconscious system, basically. So it's very important to understand these two systems before I go into how to actually become an expert. When we think about experts, one of the first things that come into mind are expert chess masters. And I don't know if you've seen these videos where a chess master will go into a room that has 10 people, and he is playing against every one of them, and he is literally winning against every one of them. So there were always debate about these chess experts. What makes them an expert in this field? Do they have higher IQ than everyone else? Do they have better memory than anyone else? So there was a study that was done in 1973 that brought in a master and a beginner to basically see the difference between the master and the beginner. And they were shown a chessboard that has 25 pieces. And they were given 5 seconds basically to look at the chessboard, close the chessboard, and then try to replicate it in another board. The masters were able, from the first time, they were able to find 15 pieces out of 25. Just 5 seconds, close, 15 pieces. The beginner, only 4. And if you look at the graph, you'll see that it takes the expert half the time to find the 25 pieces and replicate that, while it takes the beginner around 9 or 10 times. So this is normal. It makes a lot of sense. Experts have seen this board so many times, so it's easy for them to see. But they've switched the experiment a bit. What they've done is they've given them a scenario where this will never happen in a game. Because in chess, the pieces can only go into specific places, so this scenario will never happen in the game. And they were shown this, and what happened was this time, the experts and the beginners, from the first 5 seconds, both of them only managed to get 3 pieces. So now, the data shows the expert don't have better memory. They are just able to recognize patterns. They've played so many chess games, they have seen so many chess matches that they are able to chunk together all of these patterns within their mind, basically. You know Magnus Carlsen, if you are anyone who basically follows chess, he's a 5-time world champion. He says that for me, when I play chess, I don't need to think, I just play. This is how these people actually operate. So rather than them seeing and trying to think, they look at the patterns and then they base their game on the patterns itself. This is called chunking. And to show you how the human brain works in chunking, I'm going to basically conduct a small experiment. I'll give you 2 seconds to recognize what's on the board. Okay, I pressed the wrong button, sorry. We'll do it again. What did you see? This is basically how the human brains operates. These are 5 numbers. If I shown you any random number, you wouldn't have been able to recognize this. But because this is a number that is drilled and associated with pi, this is how you are able to recognize this. So we've learned that experts, chess masters, become expert by playing more and more and recognizing patterns. And there is a saying that is very famous, and anyone who played piano or played the violin, they will know that to become an expert, you need 10,000 hours. But is 10,000 hours worth of practicing enough for you to become an expert? No. You actually need to fulfill some criteria, additional criteria on top of training to be able to actually become an expert. And we are going to discuss these criteria. First criteria. You need many repeated attempts with highlight on feedback. Anyone who is a machine learning engineer will understand the importance of this thing. But to give you an example of this, if you are basically playing football, then playing football, if you win, that's a feedback for you. You know that this is the better way to do work. If you are playing chess, then when you win. If you are driving a car, then you don't need to crash. There is a feedback involved that basically helps you become an expert. To explain this further, I'll give you an example of a study that was done by Philip Tetlock. Philip Tetlock is I'm trying to think what he is, but basically he's a guy. He's a political scientist. That's the word I'm looking for. Political scientist. So what Philip Tetlock did was he conducted an experiment that ran for 20 years. What he's done was he asked 284 experts, I'll do this, 284 experts, political economists, politicians, people who are journalists in economy and politics, about different scenarios in politics. So different scenarios in politics. So things like, will George W. Bush be re-elected? Will the dot-com bubble burst? Will the apartheid in South Africa be freed very soon? And he have gathered, in the period of 20 years, he has gathered 82,361 predictions. So these guys are expert. They are postgraduate expert, and they earned their living from giving advice in there. And what has happened was, funny enough, they performed worse than if we assigned random numbers towards everyone. The reason behind this is they were supposed to predict events that are one-offs. The re-election happens every 4 years, so you don't have enough feedback to be able to create your expertise in there. So be wary of those people who tell you that they are expert in a field that has no feedback. You need feedback to be able to become an expert. Second thing, the second criteria that you need is you need a valid environment. This should make a lot of sense, but I'll give you an example anyway. Let's say, for example, you are a gambler. I don't have a better example, unfortunately, but let's say you are a gambler on a roulette, and you have the 10,000 hours. You have feedback because you know when to win, but this by itself is a low validity, and there are no patterns involved. It's just pure random. You cannot become an expert in something that is pure random. So another example of this, which is an amazing example, by the way, is I think everyone knows who this is, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is a tycoon investor, and back in the day, he has basically bet that he is able to outperform any hedge fund in the period of 10 years. If you know what hedge funds are, they are basically a group of investors, traders that come together. They have a lot of research, they have a lot of intel, and they use that to basically short the market and have better investments. And he said that I am able to beat them with the most boring investment, investing in a passive index such as S&P 500. And someone actually took him on that bet, and that bet has started in 2007. What happened was, it was funny enough, in 2008, the economy crashed, and the hedge funds actually performed better in the beginning, But then, when the market started to come back, Warren Buffett has basically won that bet by 130%. And the hedge fund, by the way, the hedge fund was not just one hedge fund, it was 5 funds of hedge funds. So he distributed the fund between 200 funds. They only managed to get 36%. So the reason behind this is that stock market is inherently low validity environment, just like the gambling. It's basically gambling. There is no, you just cannot beat the market because it's on a short-term thing. It changes randomly. It changes rapidly. And this is another study that in 10 years, 80% of hedge fund managers fail to beat the market average. 80%. And in a longer period of time, 90% of hedge fund managers are beaten by the market average. So this is basically what these guys claim to be an expert in, and yet a simple market average could have actually beaten them. You'll ask me, then why do hedge fund managers still exist? Why do people pay so much money to these so-called experts? And why are they still in existence and not in jail, to be very frank? The reason behind this is I love this experiment. This is an experiment that I think everyone here will be able to relate to. There are 2 buttons. Every button, basically, when you click on the button, a light will come out. And 80% of the time, the green button will light. 20% of the time, the red button will light. So if, for example, if I press the green, if it's the correct answer, the light will come there. So this was given to humans and to rats. And for rats, when they get the right answer, they get cheese. And when they get the wrong answer, they are electrocuted. The rat quickly recognizes that if it's 80-20, then I'll suffer the 20% electrocution, and I'll just click on the green button. I'll keep clicking on the green button. But we are humans, and we think that we are smarter than the system. And what we do is, we try every once in a while to hit the red button. Every once in a while, we'll go in and click the red button. So the success rate between rats and humans, the rats, of course, because they do that, they go 80% success rate, and humans, because we think we are smart, we do 68%. It's inherent in how we think. This is what humans do. We always think that there is patterns in chaos. This is how we think. This is how the human brains operate. And that's the second thing. It's a valid environment to be able to become an expert. The third thing is timely feedback. Having feedback by itself is not enough. You actually need to have timely feedback. If the feedback comes after 10 years, after 5 years, then you will not be able to correct course and do a better thing. Case in example. This is a study that was done by some university, but basically it was trying to predict the grade of freshmen at the end when they graduate. So there were 2 competitors in this. They had 14 counselors, expert 14 counselors, that had access to interviews. They've done the interviews themselves, 1-hour-long interviews. They had access to high school grades. They had access to multiple aptitude tests, and they also had access to a 4-page personal statement that these students actually came in. And then on the other hand, there was an algorithm that got less information, so basically high school grades and 1 aptitude test. And then the results, I think you see a pattern in here. The formula, the algorithm, scored better than 11 other counselors, even though they had more data to actually look into. The reason behind this is that the feedback that you get is after 5 years when they graduate. So in general, recruiters, even though they are able to interview, they don't always get it right. Some of you already know this example, but 7 years ago, I myself applied for a master's degree in Sultan Qaboos University in business information systems, and I failed. And the reason why they told me I failed is because I'm too technical. And those of you who know me know that I'm not too technical. So And basically, if you are rejected at any place, you feel that this person, the recruiter, judged you because of your potential, and you realize that they are not always right. The gatekeepers in these institutes aren't great predictors of the future. They are not experts because the feedback that they are getting, they get after 5, 10 years, if they get any feedback in the end. So now we have repeated experience with feedback, valid environment, and timely feedback. So are these things enough to basically become an expert? There is a pattern here, so the answer is no, of course. Now that I have this, I should have put the meme for no. The fourth thing, and I promise this is the last thing, is don't get too comfortable. I play the piano, and I think I'm good at playing the piano, but whenever I go play the piano, I play the exact same piece. And when you play the same piece, you get too comfortable, you go in, you play the same piece, you have fun, and then you go. You play in, you do the same thing. But because I'm getting too comfortable doing this, this is making me not become better at my craft. I do a lot of presentations, as you guys might well know, and I'm very comfortable in doing Rihal's presentation. When I do Rihal's presentation, I just go in, I don't need to think, I just go in, it just comes for me. Which is why I'm doing this session here, is because I want to challenge myself into something that I have never done before, so that I can become better and better. You need to get outside of, I know this is a cliche to say, but outside your comfort zone. You need to challenge yourself, you need to become more efficient at what you do, and you need to do it faster and set goals for yourself. Example, when you're driving a car, you get too comfortable driving a car. But can you actually go and drive a rally car? Can you go and drift? No. Even though you feel that you are an expert, the only way you can become an expert is not by driving for 30 years, is by driving a challenging environment every single time that you actually go and drive that car. An example, today's session is full of examples. When you have chest pain and you go to the doctor, who would you rather check on you? Someone who has 20 years experience or someone who is just graduated from med school? Most of you will say it's a 20 years experienced person, which is a very valid thing to say. But know that, like, studies have shown that experienced doctors tend to diagnose the simpler answer. If you have a rare disease, it's more likely that the junior person will be able to actually diagnose the rare disease, because they just graduated from med school and they have this fresh in their mind. Which is why, as corporate, we always need to do refresher studies. You need to be uncomfortable into these situations so that they are fresh, basically, in your mindset. I am someone who is fascinated by experts. I like to look at speed runs in video games. I like to see people who play the piano really fast. I think that true expertise is magic. This is what I think. But when you actually break it down, you recognize that true expertise can actually be attained if you are able to recognize the pattern and do the 4 criteria that we have spoken about in the beginning of through the presentation, basically. So, many repetition with feedback, valid environment, timely feedback, and the deliberate practice that you do to challenge yourself more and more and more. So, what I've done was, I wanted to basically put my hands in where my mouth is when I speak. So I said, let me try and become an expert in something that I'm fascinated about. This is if you know, it's a Rubik's Cube. And if you notice, because I'm colorblind, I have dots on the green part. And I will attempt to first time solve a Rubik's Cube in front of a crowd. So wish me luck. Let's see how it goes. It's all a matter of finding the patterns. When you're solving a Rubik's Cube, you are basically putting in algorithms and putting the algorithms together. When I started solving the Rubik's Cube, the first time I solved the Rubik's Cube took me around 1 day to actually solve the Rubik's Cube. And then the next time, I became better. Next time I became better. And now I should, in theory, be able to solve this Rubik's Cube in less than 2 minutes. Just bear with me as I try my best to not embarrass myself in solving this very interesting Rubik's Cube. My hands are shaking in ways that have never been shaken before, but I'm pretty confident that I can solve this enigma. Yeah, I can do it. You think? I already screwed up. Yes, I'm very close. Oh, this is actually quite good. You guys are good karma. It's giving me very good. It's giving me very good feedback. Ah, no, made a mistake somewhere. Bear with me. I promise. I know how to solve this. It is just, yeah. And this goes here. And this goes here. Nope. I need a bit of encouragement. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very close, I promise. And yeah, I'm close. Oh, yeah. Yep, very close. Close, I promise. And thank you very much. That was my session. If you have any questions, please ask. I don't know. Solving the Rubik's Cube in front of people should be up at the list. I don't think I'm an expert in anything. I'm trying to be at least, but I think it is very important to understand how to be able to achieve something, to do it as efficiently as possible. That's basically how I think about it.
What is one thing you would like to be an expert on?
I would love to be an expert playing piano, and that is not going to happen.
Okay, how about this? What is the next piece you would like to conquer or be able to play?
It's called Moonlight Sonata. It's an amazing piece. I listen to it all the time. I'm not going to get there. It's just wishful thinking. Let's call it
Wishful thinking.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, follow-up question. Why? Why do you think it would be challenging to be an expert on that?
Limited time.
Limited.
Unfortunately, I use the time that I should be practicing in playing video games. I am an expert in that, though. I am an expert in that.
Thank you, Azzan. Thank you.
Azzan, thank you for your presentation. So my question is, we have peer pressure, you have karma, you have responsibilities, and expectation from people you work with. So these criteria, more or less, were not mentioned in your presentation, whether it is positively or negatively. You mentioned the pillars, basically, to become an expert. But all of these also another factors that could take you up or could you down. So can you give us your insight?
100%. No, you are correct. External factors are not put into consideration in the study. Basically, I took this from a video. I highly recommend you guys see the video. It has much more information and sources. But yeah, in general, what these guys fail to mention is the external factors that can actually affect you. You can put them in the feedback part and the timely feedback part. You will not be able to get as much. But in general, yeah, you are 100% correct. Yeah.
Thank you, Azzan, for your presentation. In a famous book called Mastery by Robert Greene, okay, he mentioned the importance of apprentice, basically a coach that could help you accelerate your learning.
Yeah. This goes directly into the comfortable, being too comfortable. The thing about mentors is that whenever you get comfortable, they are able to help you identify where your weaknesses are so that you can actually work on your weakness. And it basically directly falls under being too comfortable. When you're working with a mentor, then you cannot show off because he will basically pinpoint your your shortcomings. It's the same things with a software developer. If you develop on your own, you get too comfortable very quickly. But you are developing with your peers, you will be able to see how good you are or how bad you are, and you will work on that. And yeah, falls right into the being comfortable part.
Another question.
Please.
Since we are here in a place where multiple organizations are available, your presentation more or less reflects on the individuals. How can you reflect the same criteria on corporations?
I think it's exactly the same. I mentioned at the beginning the machine learning part. All these criteria work like directly the same as training a machine learning model. Is continuous feedback, timely feedback. Getting too comfortable is not a machine thing. But yeah, and if it applies to the machine learning model, it's exactly the same as organization. Case in point is getting too comfortable. As an organization, whenever you are feeling that I'm better than everyone, I'm able to win contracts, I'm able to run operations in a good way, that's the first sign that you will fall. And there are so many examples like Blockbuster, Nokia. They got too comfortable, even though they were good, but they didn't put themselves into situations that are challenging. And when you read, you realize that these are the things that actually affected them. Yeah. All right. If there aren't any questions, maybe everyone understood the topic very well. Thank you.